All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, evening, whatever, morning. This is for Esther. This is chapter 15 of Searching for Dragons, which has the lovely title In Which Everyone Argues. I'm blaming all of it on Telmaine, because I'm sure that's what happened. Willen's list was remarkably clear and well organized. Once they found the section headed Caves and Caverns near the Mountains of Mourning, it was only a matter of a few minutes before they discovered the listing for the Cave of Stone Icicles, the only cave at the western end of the Pass of the Dragons. As Mendenbar had predicted, there was a back way into it. A tunnel started from the bottom of the Crystal Falls and wound around under the hills and forests until it reached a crack at the rear of the cave. This doesn't look as if it will be hard at all, Cymrine said. Don't say that. Don't say that. Let's go. Right, said Mendenbar. This shouldn't take long. I'll be back in an hour or so. Willen, take care of everyone while I'm gone. Refreshments and think. Everyone? Who are you talking about? Wait a minute, Cymrine said, her voice rising above startled objections from everyone else. You're not going without me. But I am Kazul's chief cook and librarian, Cymrine said firmly. It's my job to help rescue her. I suppose so, Mendenbar said, but all I'm going to do is sneak in and look at the wizards and then sneak out again. That's all you think you're going to do, but what if something goes wrong? Exactly, Morwen said. You should have someone with you. Several someones, in fact. I'm real good at sneaking, Crown Prince Jorlum put in eagerly, and I want to see a dragon up close. No, you don't, Mendenbar said. Morwen, are you trying to tell me you want to come along as well? No, Morwen said, looking at him sternly over the tops of her glasses. I'm telling you I'm going to come whether you like it or not. Kazul's my friend, and besides, I want to crack at those wretched wizards. We aren't going to do anything to the wizards until we know more about what we're up against, Mendenbar said, feeling harried. Then how come you wanted those buckets of soapy water? Crown Prince Jorlum demanded. Just in case, Mendenbar said. This is only to find out what the wizards are doing and how many of them are there. Which is precisely why I must accompany you, Telmaine put in. Not you too. Telmaine frowned at him. You don't seem to realize what a priceless opportunity this is. I don't care. No, this is not what this is. It is entirely possible that we shall be able to observe the Society of Wizards in the very act of casting their magic-absorbing spells. Since they are extremely secretive about their methods, this may be the only chance we have of studying their techniques. It isn't worth a risk, Mendenbar said. Not to you, perhaps, Telmaine told him. I, however, intend to take full advantage of these circumstances. One way or another, I'm going to get a look at those wizards. He leaned the wizard staff against the wall and folded his arms stubbornly, like a 5-year-old. Yeah, and then we melt him, Crown Prince Jorlum said enthusiastically. You are not coming with us, Mendenbar told him. But I'm real good at sneaking, Jorlum said. Tell them, Uncle. He is, Prince Rupert said earnestly, and I'll keep an eye on him so he won't get in your way. Oh my God. That would mean you're coming too! Mendenbar stared at him. No, you won't, because you aren't coming with me either. I'm going to sneak into the Cave of Stone Icicles by myself. No, you're not, said everyone at once. Morwen's 2 cats glanced up, then went back to washing their tails. Mendenbar got the distinct impression that the only reason they hadn't joined in the general outcry was that they thought it was beneath them to argue. That's true. It is inappropriate for the King of the Enchanted Forest to embark on a mission to the King of the Dragons without a formal escort, Willen added. You want me to take all these people along as a formal escort? Mendenbar said incredulously. Really, Willen? Not at all, the elf replied. They are all persons of distinction, and it would not be suitable for any of them to take a position as a formal escort to your majesty. Properly, only those of your subjects already in your majesty's employ may make up such a retinue. Due to your majesty's general dislike of formality, we have very few such persons available at present. What are you suggesting? Mendenbar asked with a sinking feeling. That I am the only person, or possible person, who can accompany your majesty in this capacity, Willen said. If he gets to go, so do I, Crown Prince Jorlum cried, who is also a child, apparently. Not without me, Prince Rupert said, setting his jaw. I don't know anything about this business with the dragons and the wizards, but Jorlum is my responsibility. Until I lose him in the forest, that is. And until I lose him in the forest. And Kazul is my responsibility, Cymrine said. Like it or not, I'm going to get a look at those spells, Telmaine stated flatly. Those wizards have caused me a lot of trouble, what with one thing and another, Morwen pointed out. I intend to cause them a bit of trouble back. It is necessary it is necessary to your majesty's dignity with your majesty. I'm sorry, I've messed this up. It is necessary to your majesty's dignity that your majesty take a proper escort with you, Willen put in. Quiet, Mendenbar said. Everyone stopped talking. Willin looked utterly astonished. Jorlim had a wary expression, and Prince Rupert and Telemaine both looked mildly taken aback. Morwen's eyes gleamed approvingly behind her glasses. Cimmerine looked momentarily startled, but then she smiled. Minibar took a deep breath. First things first. Crown Prince Jorlim, yes, you are not coming on this expedition. You will stay here, at the castle, until I return, in the dungeon, just as you requested. But it's not fair, Jorlim said. I didn't know then that you were going to go fight wizards, and that elf Willin is one of my people and a native of the Enchanted Forest, Minibar said. You aren't. Don't bother arguing. You don't get a choice. I'm the king here, remember? Jorlim gave him a sulky nod. Prince Rupert, Mendembar went on, you are quite right to say that your nephew needs watching. You will stay here and keep an eye on him while I'm gone. Certainly, your majesty, Prince Rupert said with a relieved sigh, if you say so. I'm afraid I can't bring you with me either, Willin, Mendembar said, turning to his steward. Steward, that's what he is. Somebody has to take care of our visitors, and you're the only possible person. Willin hesitated, plainly torn. It is my duty to serve your majesty, regardless of the danger. I appreciate your willingness to accompany me, Mendembar assured him. I feel, however, that you would serve me better here. Now please take these two guests to the north-northwest tower dungeon and see that they get some refreshments. As your majesty commands, Willin said, bowing. He gestured to Prince Rupert and Crown Prince Jorlim and led them away. Well, that takes care of them, anyway, Mendembar thought, as the three rounded a bend in the corridor and vanished from sight. The rest wouldn't be that easy. He looked over and saw Morwen, Cimmerine, and Telemaine standing side by side, wearing identical expressions of stubbornness, and he sighed. He supposed he could accidentally, on purpose, forget to include them in the transportation spell, but somehow he didn't think that would stop them. Not when one was a witch, one a magician, and one an experienced dragon's princess. But notice how he doesn't refer to her derogatorily? In a derogatory manner. That's much better. Don't even bother trying to talk us out of it, Cimmerine warned. You only waste more time. You're probably right, Mendembar said at last. And anyway, I suspect I really should have some help with me just in case. Very sensible of you, Morwen told him. Yeah, well, let's get our buckets and go, Mendembar said uncomfortably. The four of them collected soapy buckets of water from the imperturbable castle footman. Cimmerine and Telemaine took two each, but Mendembar only took one, because he wanted to keep one hand free in case he needed his sword. Morwen also took only one bucket. She did not explain in her expression, dared anyone to comment? No one did. The footman left, removing Telemaine's staff along the way. Be sure you put that somewhere safe, Telemaine called after him. Mendembar looked around one last time, checking to make sure that everyone was finally ready, then twitched the strands of power and transported them all to the foot of the Crystal Falls. They appeared on the slippery bank of a narrow stream. A little farther on, the Crystal Falls poured in a shining curtain down the side of a sheer cliff of black glass. The water foamed and swirled at the foot of the falls, forming a small, restless pool, then rushed down to the channel at their feet and dashed on into the deeper parts of the enchanted forest. The noise of the falling water was tremendous, and the air had a clean, sharp smell. I love that smell when you're by a giant waterfall. It's wonderful. Mendembar looked around to see that everyone was there and that no one had spilled the soapy water. He noticed without surprise that the two cats had come along, of course, even though he had not specifically included them in the transportation spell. Cats were like that. Which way is the tunnel entrance? Cimmerine asked. She had to shout to make herself heard over the roar of the waterfall. Over there, Mendembar shouted back, waving at a clump of fir trees near the foot of the cliff. Watch your step. What did you say? Telemaine yelled. He said, watch your step, Cimmerine replied at the top of her lungs. Is he gonna fall off? Telemaine nodded, and they moved cautiously away from the water-slick bank of the stream. The cats had already moved out of the range of the mist billowing up from the base of the waterfall. While the rest of the group caught up to them, the two cats gave Mendembar looks of deep reproach, as if to imply that he should have more sense than to sit everyone down so close to such a damply uncomfortable spot. How dare he magically transport people? The tunnel entrance was a narrow crack in the side of the cliff, hidden behind the clump of firs. The cats trotted through it and vanished into the darkness. Morwen gazed after them with a thoughtful expression on her face. I don't suppose anyone remembered to bring a light, Cimmerine said, eyeing the crack with evident misgiving. Telemaine smiled and said three words that crackled in the air. A small globe of golden light appeared above his head. I'll go first, so the rest of you can see where you're stepping, he said, smiling with a trace of smugness. And what do you think will happen when we get near the wizards and their magic-absorbing spell gets hold of your little glow ball? Morwen said sharply. You're not thinking, Telemaine. I suppose you have a better idea? Morwen pushed her glasses firmly into place, set down a bucket of soapy water, and reached into one of her long, loose sleeves. She pulled out a small lantern and set it on the ground. Then she reached into the other sleeve, from which she pulled a flint striker and a long splinter of wood. Expertly, she struck a spark and lit the splinter, then used the splinter to light the lantern. She blew the splinter out, stuffed it and the flint back into her sleeve, and smiled at the surprise on everyone's face. Is her coat a TARDIS? Extendable charm on her coat? What is going on? I thought we might be needing this, she said. Picking up the lantern and the bucket, she started for the mouth of the tunnel. Hang on a minute, Mindenbar said. I should go first. Would you give me the lantern, Morwen? Only if you don't dawdle, Morwen responded. My cats are in there. Of course. You come next, then, and then Telemaine after you. Cimmerian can come last. That way we'll have a light between every two people. Cimmerian did not look happy about these arrangements, but Mindenbar did not give anyone time to argue. As soon as Morwen nodded, he took the lantern and started into the crack. It was only wide enough for one of them at a time to edge sideways, and the ground was covered with shattered rock, which made the footing treacherous. Juggling the lantern and his bucket back and forth from hand to hand, Mindenbar tried to see what lay ahead of him while still giving Morwen enough light to follow. Progress was slow, and he began to wonder whether the whole tunnel was going to be as narrow and difficult as the beginning. Maybe we would have been better off charging at the main entrance, he muttered to himself. After what seemed like a very long time, but was probably only a few minutes, the tunnel widened. The piles of shattered rock became fewer, then ceased altogether. Mindenbar heaved a sigh of relief and stopped to let the others catch up. Morwen was first. Good, she said as he clambered over the last of the rock piles, balancing carefully to avoid spilling her bucket. I was beginning to think that rocky stuff was never going to end. Any sign of my cats? It would be more reasonable to ask whether there is any sign of the wizards, Telemaine said, following Morwen into the wider part of the tunnel. There was a large wet spot down down one side of his many-pocketed vests. Apparently he had not been as careful with his buckets as Morwen. I haven't seen a trace of the wizards, Mindenbar said, but the cats have been by here, pointing at two small trails of footprints leading down the tunnel. Thank goodness that's over, Cimmerian said as she emerged from the narrow section of the tunnel to join them. Why are you all just standing here? The cave of stone icicles is a lot farther on. As this was undeniably true, they set off again. There was still not room for all four of them to stand in a line, but at least now they could walk 2 by 2 without difficulty. Somehow, Cimmerian ended up walking with Mindenbar in front. Mindenbar was not sure whether to be glad or sorry. He enjoyed walking with Cimmerian, even if they did not dare to talk much. The wizards might have someone listening for odd noises. On the other hand, being in front meant that he and Cimmerian were the ones the wizards would attack first. Mindenbar did not like the idea of anyone attacking Cimmerian, although he knew she could take care of herself. He had some time to consider this, for the tunnel was long and winding, but he found it hard to concentrate with Cimmerian walking so close to him. Ooh. He discovered that he wanted to put his arm around her as they walked. Oh, I wonder why. Because she's perfect? The one carrying the bucket of water, not the lantern, but somehow that didn't seem like the right thing to do when they were supposed to be watching out for wizards. He'd never met a princess like Cimmerian before. He'd never met anyone like Cimmerian before. She was smart and brave and kind and loyal, and he liked her. In fact, he liked her a great deal. In fact, suddenly the light around Mindenbar dimmed. He stopped and glanced over his shoulder. The little globe that had been hovering over Telemaine's head had gone out. Telemaine, Mindenbar whispered. I didn't turn it off, Telemaine whispered back. We must be getting near the wizards. Mindenbar nodded without surprise. The atmosphere in the tunnel felt dry and magicless, and though they were still within the enchanted forest, he could no longer sense threads of power floating invisibly in the air. He swallowed, hoping he would not have to do any spells in a hurry. Keep close, he whispered to Telemaine and Morwen, and slowly started forward once more. The tunnel bent sharply to the left, then right, and without further warning opened into a forest of stone pillars. Ooh, I'm so nervous. A glimmer of light showed between the stones, and they could hear a mumble of voices in the distance. Hastily, Mindenbar covered the lantern with a corner of his cloak so that it only lit the area just in front of his feet. Cimmerian dropped back. After a moment, she put her hand on his shoulder, and Mindenbar wondered briefly what she had done with the bucket. She gave his shoulder a brief squeeze to indicate that Morwen and Telemaine had taken their places. Then he heard her pick the bucket up again. Carefully, oh my God, stop texting me! Carefully, Mindenbar edged through the pillars toward the light and voices. As they drew nearer, Mindenbar began to understand what the voices were saying. I don't like this, grumbled one. We've wasted too much time already. We should just take her outside, dose her with Dragonsbane, and leave her for someone to find. Stop complaining, Dizenel, replied a smooth voice, and Mindenbar frowned as he recognized Zeminar's fluid tones. I told you 100 times how foolish this would be, Zeminar went on. I'm not going to tell you for the 101st. Oh, I'm getting close to 50 minutes. Let me stop, and I will make another video and finish the chapter.